Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. Yeah, everything's working. I think we are live now. So hi there. Just before we will start this show today, this webinar, we will wait a few more seconds for all registered participants. Okay, just like 10 to 15 seconds. Guys, first question. Are you seeing us and hearing us correctly? Just write in your answer in the chat. It will be amazing. Hey.
We might have some lag.
Oh, yes. We have a lag here. Oh my God. Cool, guys. Okay, amazing. So where are you from, guys? Maybe a second question, cool, which will give us a feedback if everything's working. From which country or from which organization you are? We have a quite huge Romania, Argentina, Poland. Yeah, cool. Denmark, Sri Lanka. Wow. India, Kansas City, Poland, England. Wow, guys, amazing that you are together with us today. So remember to click and subscribe our Executive Automats YouTube channel, so you will be prompted and informed about all the next webinars and shows which we are planning to do so. So, short introduction. I am Erf. That's cool. Erf. So I'm Rafał Nyszewski. I will be your moderator for today's webinar, Dynamics 365 User Acceptance Tests, UATs. Explain it on examples. So I'm very glad that you have joined us today. A couple housekeeping things, just we will get started. So the chat is on, we have tested, it's working, we have a lag, so please be aware of that. Also, we are recording session, so this is the answer to Mohammed that, yeah, we will send the link to this recording to the email address that you have registered with. So yeah, please aware to check all to all your emails. Maybe you have used different one. Okay, so moving forward to today's webinar agenda. Firstly, as you can see, the actual agenda is a little different than it was announced. We adjusted a bit to give you a sneak peek of our testing methodology ebook. Yes, we have prepared a testing methodology, which will be available soon on our Executive Automats linking page and our web page. Why we have built this testing methodology and why we want to share it. Since 10 years, we have been meeting our clients because it's like 11 year of Executive Automats on the market. And our clients, unfortunately, don't have this full sureness, full awareness how they should approach testing. Yeah? So, okay, in general, they know what to test and how they should test, but don't know exactly how to do that. Yeah, together with Bart and with his tremendous knowledge about the testing, we built such a methodology which we would like to share with you guys. So yeah, back to the agenda. First, we will say and share with you guys what is exactly an UAT and how the implementation process looks, and of that, and how what is the difference between implementation process and go live. Afterwards, we'll move to the point showing an environment structure example in both views from the customer and partner approach. Then test automation, considering the UAT phase. And next, we'll jump into the fits and gaps. So sign-off versus automatic test case creation. Last but not least, question answers session. And yeah, today with me is Bartosz Piech. You remember guy. He's like already have mentioned him before. So he's the leader of our testing methodology ebook. So yeah, but yeah, he is also a product manager and head of our executive automats and executive automats security setup framework. So thank you, Bart, that you have joined us today. And yeah, we are moving forward to the next slide, and the stage is yours, Bart.
Thank you so much, Rafa, for introduction. Hello, everybody, once again. Today will be quite a unique session. We're going to focus purely on the UAT phases, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of what is coming in our ebook. I'm super glad that we've been able to accomplish that. Feel free to ask as many questions as you've got. So we'll be able to focus on the Q&A section on those questions and actually lead this topic, this presentation towards your needs. So yeah, starting off with what is exactly UAT, the user acceptance testing. Generally speaking, we can't automate that. We cannot take this specific process from the implementation or after go live phases. The UAT is designed so the business user can approve you the shape of the functionalities which going to be deployed in the production. If we're going to perform some test automation around that, we're going to simply take out this decision and we're going to make decision for them, which is unacceptable. We've seen some automation on the UAT, which is kind of a wrong. Of course, the UAT environment, it has some specifics. It has some advantages to perform test automation on that, but we clearly see that less automation you do on the UAT, it will be easier. It will be more predictable for the business users to approve the shape of the functionalities. What is important, if you've got an UAT environment and you're going to perform multiple test automation on that, you're going to create a massive amount of transactions, and the business user who will come up for the first time very often to the environment to see the functionality which was designed for them, they will be just kind of lost in those transactions. They will be not able to understand the system, and we don't want to have that. Different sources are kind of telling the same. This one was taken from the Microsoft Success by Design implementation guide. Overall, the reason why we have this session today, maybe it is good to tell you as well that, and why we are building the methodology is simply saying there is no precise books or guidance how to perform test automation combining Azure DevOps and test automation tool to have predictable results, to have everybody happy from the stakeholders. So this is the major goal for us, to show you some approaches, some guidance, how to make everybody happy, how to make ROI on test automation, and so on and so on. Moving on to the next slide. You will see here a typical or an example. This might be not typical environment structure, but this is an environment structure which can give you some benefits. In our guidance book, we're gonna explain them one by one in more detail. Now I'm gonna just touch base on a few of those environments. So it starts everything with developer environments where developers are coding, where then when they are building the system branches where they've got the test automation. Apologize, and that they're going to build the branches of the system itself. And on the build environment, this is the place where you can perform unit tests. This is the place where developer can simply verify their stability, the branch, their code they are delivering. And on the build environment, this is the first place where you can actually perform sanity check, so-called smoke test. This is a basic pack of test cases you can have in your environment. We can say the criticalities, critical business processes you want to execute against your system. So that's about the build. Then we've got, of course, the development environment for security. And very often we recommend to have this separate environment where you build and you've got your secure layer of your roles, duties, and privileges to separate that from the rest. But of course, this environment has to be very often updated from the functionality perspective, because you have to develop roles, duties, and privileges based on the actual image of the system. But make sure that you've noted that it is a good practice to have the development for security environment, development security environment. And then we've got the test and seat environment, system integration test. Why we are separating test and SIT? Simply saying the SITs are the environments where you've got your connection to APIs. And there are some security policies and reasons why we can't give it to everybody. There are some production only interfaces which we have and we are using for testing as well. So we can't expose this very critical vulnerable data to everybody in the organization. That's why on the test environment, we are having the possibility to test the system, test the latest version of the system, or the things which are under development. And in here, we can run sanity check. We can run those critical test cases, the pack of the critical test cases. But not only on the SIT, typically we've got those additional configurations which are integrating with some SAPs, with some endpoints which are providing good data. So the SIT is kind of a unique set, and there are different people let in to those environments. Then we've got something called UAT, as mentioned, the user acceptance testing, and every functionality which is approved by the business is moved to regression and the release environment. There's a cherry picking here, and I'll explain that later on at the end of this presentation. But this is something also very interesting. Normally, and this is the in ideal world, we are planning the whole scope of the current release, and on the UAT, the whole scope when it is ready, it is waiting for user sign off. So the business users are invited on the UAT phases, and the business user can check if the functionality developed by their in-house development is ready, if everything is good, and they can sign it off. Say, okay, this is good. This can go to the regression testing environment or to the release test, or to the release environment, and this will be later on moved to the production. Normally, the whole scope is delivered, so we are moving this by model, and there is no other possibility that all functionalities are there. The cherry picking is something else. As mentioned, we're going to touch base a little bit later on that. And after the UAT phases, we've got the regression testing environment. On the regression testing environment, we can definitely run sanity check and regression testing. Why we've got regression testing environment as a separate one? Normally because of the data and the stability. We want to make an environment for regression testing. The regression, of course, is a significant one. Is the regression testing is deep verification of the system stability. And very often it needs a lot of data migration strategy. The data needs to be preloaded. There has to be a lot of actions performed to make the regression possible. So in order to do that, and in order to not disturb any other work going on your environment, we are performing that on the regression testing environment. And then, if everything is working good, if the regression is let's say with all successes, simply saying there are no error messages, warnings, no triage happened, or triage already went through and the actual results were corrected, then this whole system is moved to the release. And the release is the place where we've got the latest version, or we can say the early bird access for what will come to the production in the upcoming weeks. So the release is the early bird for the business users, so they can foresee what's going to come on the environment, on the production environment, and they will be able to benefit from making transactions there to see this in the system. There is also a sanity check. So once again, the core business processes, this is done frequently on the environment, even weekly or even daily for some environments. And if somebody is asking why we are performing so frequently those core business processes execution daily or weekly, it's simple. Very often the errors or bugs happening on the environment, they're happening when some specific situation happened, like somebody left an open journal, somebody just changed something by accident, or some unexpected number of transactions reached a limit, or there is some specific configuration on the specific posting profile which just started to pick up some error messages. So either way, that even if you don't, even if you think that your sanity check should verify the latest code stability, because there are a lot of people thinking only in that direction, that we are testing the smoke test or sanity check just when we do code change. This is of course a good approach, but since our test automation is reusable and it's kind of a bulletproof, so it can be executed day by day without providing so much changes, we have the benefit of that. We can build a significant ROI just by re-executing those test cases against the release and the regression testing environment to see potential danger in corner cases, because corner cases are making a lot of losses on the production system. Moving forward, we've got production system where we don't test exactly, and then we've got PreProd. And the PreProd system is something which you might be not so familiar with. Somebody called this last time AfterProd, but the PreProd idea is that this is a business user sandbox. On the production system, sometimes you have to perform some very rare transactions, some corrections, something which just failed in the production, and instead of making those choices, those unusual transactions on the production, and then expose yourself, or maybe actually more precisely, just you will just need to have some partner or some firefighter activity in production because you've done not exactly what you wanted due to some unusual transaction. You can test those transactions on the PreProd. The PreProd consists -7-day data from production. So every day it takes 7 days from the past transaction from the production, it floods this on the PreProd, and the business user, instead of making those production activities or corrections which they are not super certain about, instead of making those in the production, they are switching to PreProd, performing them, verifying if the idea is correct, and then it goes to production straight away after verification. So this is the business user sandbox. We don't invite here testers. We don't invite here developers, only if this is case of the firefighting activity. Firefighter, of course, this is terminology where you invite somebody, a super admin, to the user for data corrections or system corrections. And this session is highly audited. That's kind of a functionality which finance and operations doesn't have, and that's something which is very beneficial to have for partners. Moving to the partner side, because this was more like end user where you don't have FAT. And here in the center, we've got the FAT environment, which is the major element which is distinguishing the partner and end customer and user methodology or end environment structure. The FAT stands for Factory Acceptance Test. Factory in here is the partner. Factory is the consultants, architects, developers which are building the functionalities for the end user, for the company for which they are implementing finance and operations. And this FAT, as it is only for partners, it has its own sanity check. The factory acceptance test is the verification if the factory, the partner, makes the application with certain level of quality. So we want to verify before we're going to go to UAT, where this is the first time where a business user sees that. We want to make sure that the FAT, these people will verify our internal quality, will verify how it looks like before it's going to go on to for the first time for the business users. They say this is like you are a chef in the kitchen. You have just one shot. You've got one bullet. If somebody will like the taste, they will be more eager to do more, to eat more, to accept more. So if you're going to build the application in the correct way, and the UAT phases will be just smooth and more predictable, you will be able to benefit from predictable implementation. Of course, that's ideal world, but we want to avoid situation where within the UATs, the businesses are frustrated about how system works. So the FAT and verification of the system in continuous way, performing sanity check, performing regression on the FAT, mostly sanity check, regression is more unique. It will be beneficial approach to make sure that the quality on the FATs are unique. Then further, we have the same structure: UAT, regression, release, production, and pre-prod. So partner can benefit from the same elements as the end user after go live can benefit from. Next, if we're going to move on to the next slide, you will see that there are some other elements that we have to think about when we do the UATs. As mentioned before, we can't take it from the users. They have to decide if the requirements are met. So if they order it, a specific functionality and the shape of it, it is for them a requirement to verify if this actually was met, that they this is what they ordered, this is meeting the expectations. So the partner can be secured and they can push it to the other environment on the regression release and then to the production. One of the other points that we are verifying and then advising is to make also the security layer correct, because the system, when it is verified on the UATs with system admins, might give the end user kind of a misunderstanding how many functionalities they're going to see. If you're going to build more precise roles and privileges before the UAT will happen, it might let you save a ton of frustration of the users when they're gonna deploy a final version on the production. Because on the UATs, if they're gonna see all of those buttons, they're gonna be confused. They're gonna make some hard decisions. They will be simply making themselves comfortable with the functionality, which at the end will have different shape. So to prevent that, it is good to take the approach and think about a security layer, and not only use some non-system admin roles, not only not use the standard pack of the APQC roles, but build yourself a role. Build a role which will represent your actual business processes, functionalities, and self. So they are simply meeting the requirements from the security, and also then it will have direct impact on the licensing model. So these elements are pretty important. Yeah, we can carry on to the next slide. And as you know, the implementation of the dynamics, when you are implementing the system and making analysis, we've got that verification of the fits and gaps. Fit means that standard of your system simply saying meets the requirements. So we don't need to modify the standard of the system. Business can approve that the functionalities which are provided by the standard of the system are good enough. We can implement them and the business can benefit out of that. These fits, they can be graded by criticality, so which are the most important ones, and they can be out of the box after analysis. They can be converted to the test cases. So either you haven't even done so much UATs, you haven't even done the real deployment yet, or you are not deployed with your final version of Dynamics, you're able to build your test cases. And also those fits, if you've got test cases for fits, you'll be able to convert them to documentation. You'll be able to benefit from the task guidance. So then when you're going to start some onboardings with users, you are able to use the test automation in multiple other directions. Talking about the gaps, so functionalities which are not covered by the standard of the system, and we have to utilize some ISV solutions, or we have to develop some in-house functionalities to cover the gaps. These are more complicated elements because, of course, we can develop them on dev, we can test them internally, we can make final factory acceptance tests on our FATs, and we can say it is ready for UATs. If we're going to take the approach and build either test cases or security on FAT, it might happen that the UAT phase, business will tell, but this doesn't actually have the final functionalities we wanted. So it has to come back to dev once again, to test once again, to FAT once again, and then to the UAT finally. So it might be a significant loss of time to build test automation before UATs. But you can build a process that as soon as the business will tell that the UAT signed off, so the business user signed off this the version of the system, it can go to the test case, and it can be used for regression in FATs, and it can be used for sanity check on the test. So these elements on after the UAT phase, you can make that borderline where you can actually use that for verification. And of course, the UATs are very often done by subject matter experts, by owners of the business area, BPOs, however we're going to call them. Then they need to distribute the logic, distribute the way how system works. So they need to teach the other users of finance and operations how the system looks like, and they can benefit because these test cases, they can be converted to the user guides, and then on the release or learning environment, if you're going to consider to build that one, you'll be able to distribute those test guides, and they can learn from these test cases. Multiple advantages out of this approach. And I think, and we've confirmed with different customer sites, that after the UAT phases is the first nice moment to build the test case which was signed off by the business. Let me move forward to that one.
Yeah. So guys, the thing which we need to mention again, this is a sneak peek of what we're having and what you will receive with testing methodology. And you will be able to order yourself a testing methodology hard copy and ebook. So please be aware what is happening on our LinkedIn page of the Executive Automats, and also on the webpage of executive-automats.com. And yeah, sorry to jump in, but a bit.
Thank you so much, Rafael, for our commercial time. Simply saying, we want to share with the community this knowledge, because we are in the center of what's going on the implementation. Very often we are participating on different. Last year we've been on 4 continents, and I think on 30 countries, visiting different customers, visiting different industries, and everybody is facing the same problem. So we believe that this may solve a lot of those, because testing is needed, especially for one version of Dynamics, and not everybody knows how to do that. So this is the reason why we built that methodology, which from the idea, it has to be useful for all testing tools. We've got some unique usage of executive automats, of course, but I think you can benefit from whatever you use. And within the previous graph, you've probably seen the cherry picking. And for those of you who don't know what is cherry picking, in the real or in ideal world, it is that for UAT and the release phase on the specific, let's say, sprint, we want to deliver to our customer number of functionalities. Let's say 10 of functionalities are forecasted, or they're going to be delivered on March 1st. But in the real world, 8 of them are ready, or 4 of them are ready, because there are different things going on, and we've been not able to deliver so much on the deadline. So what do? We use the cherry picking. We use cherry picking, so-called sort of approach, that we are selecting a specific functionality. So we are not taking a whole model or whole model of the system, how it looks like. It consists all changes. We are selecting that's cherry which is ready. So we are copying, just taking the fragment of the functionality which was out of those 10. Let's say one of those 10 were signed off by the business, and we are moving then to the regression and the release environment. That's kind of important, because if the UAT phase is very intense and there are a lot of back and forths, and users are just changing their minds and signing off just portion of what they wanted originally to develop or deliver by March 1st, we can use that approach to make sure that we are chunk by chunk, delivering what we want, delivering what we planned. So on the UATs, this is the moment where you do cherry picking when you find out those selected elements. But also on the FATs, if you are creating functionalities which can be verified by our factory, by our consultants, and this doesn't need to have significant business user verification. This is kind of a more technical stuff, some APIs. We can deliver them from FAT to regression and release, omitting the UAT phase. So we've seen those two happenings on the FATs and the UATs, and yeah, this can be very beneficial. I think this is the last slide for today, so we can move into the Q&A session. And
That's
please
right.
let us
That's
know
right.
if there are any questions about what you've seen. It will be more than a pleasure to share with you more knowledge about the testing, because we believe this is our duty, seeing so much and participating in the AXUG community. That's kind of a goal to improve finance and operations, finance supply chain management, to become #1 ERP system in the world. I mean, right now it is.
This is like a common goal here.
Yeah, that's the common goal we want to follow.
Yeah.
So
there was one question regarding the recording, but we already answered that during the session. And yeah, we have like a few questions. I will share right now one of it on the screen. Do you have a methodology on performance testing? Wow.
Kind of a yes, but we haven't done so much of shaping that in like a document yet.
Yeah, document yet, exactly.
We are building an approach which consists kind of a mixture of different projects we've been through lately in South Africa and one in the United States. We've been able to find out some nice approach how to verify system stability before go live, kind of a simulation of one day after go live. And the findings out of that project, which will probably end in April, will be our baseline to create kind of an approach. So you'll be able to benefit from planning the performance test in your schedule of testing for finance and operations implementation. So this will be something which definitely can be nice to see in upcoming weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. Well, I see that if we have another question here. Just looking. There was the question regarding the recording, but maybe I'll show that. Yes, we will record. The webinar is recorded and will be shared in the email, follow-up email with the link to the recording. So, yeah.
There is one more. I think there was kind of lag on the chat, but it just put on. Sure. So for methodology, we are using. So we want to deliver you combination of the tools. Not actually naming the test automation tool, but this can be anything that connects to Azure DevOps. So definitely ADO, Azure DevOps, as the place where you store test automation and manual testing in combination. And we have some approach that you'll be able to leverage the ADO reporting. And ADO reporting will consist manual testing and the test automation from the different tools. So you'll be able to plan regression testing, run all of your tests, and see the regression testing results on the ADO. Anybody who will need from the stakeholders to see the results, they can come into ADO and have one place where they see the whole health check of the system. We also utilize a lot Power BI because the different applications, they've got the Power BI endpoints, so we can gather data and use some reporting to build you one report to share with the stakeholders. So ADO, test automation tool, and then Power BI for reporting or ADO for reporting. These are the tools that you can use for enhancements of the test automation and also manual testing as well.
Yeah, and our tools have the full integration with those Azure DevOps and Power BI reporting. So yeah, it also can be used here. We have another question. I will share that on the screen. In UATs, who will train the end user, tester or FC, finance consultant, or
functional consultant.
functional consultant?
So maybe not tester. Tester could, but very often testers, they don't have so much of deep knowledge. I would say if you're gonna build on if after UATs you're gonna build the testing, so you will work with subject matter experts to build that raw recording of the process. Then tester will take it over for applying some functionalities like we want to make sure that the test case will be reusable. So the tester can apply their Excel files, optional steps, and a lot of logic to make sure the test case, which was recorded by the business, it will be repeatedly used. So that's the goal. And when they've done that, they are able to build the documentation. And the tester can, of course, distribute the documentation to the end users to show them how the process works. But I think the idea would be that they can distribute, but at the end of the day, functional consultant from the area, trading and logistics, or finance consultant, or project PSA, whoever from which area will be there, they can advise at the end. So the business user can take documentation, go step by step through the process. They can watch the interactive execution of the business process, so they can understand how it works. If they're going to have some questions, they can more precisely go to the functional consultant to ask about them. So the functional consultant work will be limited here. There will be no need anymore for them to sit down and go through whole process. They'll be able to let them watch what they've got and focus only on the places which are not super certain, which are not super clear.
Thank you, Bart. That dude has addressed in another question. I'll share that right now. How can we use your tool in the initial test phase when we want to implement a new ERP system, D365 Finance and Operations?
Sure. If you think about,
but you want back to this chart again, or?
Yeah, I mean, the initial phase, it's kind of a we can say system analysis, depending
And
if
design.
if you are upgrading from Exapta like 2012 or 2009 or even other ones, or you are switching from another tool, another ERP system family. If you are in the analysis phases and you've ended up sort of matching what system has in the standard older 4.0.
Older.
If you are already aware that there are some fits, as mentioned, if there is a functionality from F&O which is covered by standard, so you don't need to do any gaps, gap identification, or the system gives you what you needed. That moment when you signed it off by the business user, you were able to start building the test automation in our tool. Further, whenever you're going to end up the gaps, we talked about that a little bit before, you were able to record those gaps after the UAT phase. So the initial phase, we can say, on the system analysis on fits, and the gaps on the UAT phase can be this is the first moment where you can build value in our tool on test automation, and probably on some other tools as well, but the majority is here. Also, on the UAT phases, you'll be able to use our another tool called Security Setup, Executive Automats for Security Setup, which is designed to build the roles and duties and privileges for your implementation side to optimize licenses and system access. So this is kind of a combination which you can benefit from.
Thank you, Bart. Also, remember about what Bart also said about the documentation, that is that included? Okay, I'm just sorry. That Executive Automats has capabilities to create this documentation. So this is a quite huge benefit, especially when you are in the very beginning phase, when you already have some kind of environment to use, to be used in terms of the testing, and you're already creating the documentation of your business process and tasks and etc. This is like huge benefit, especially when you face such a situation in the near future that you will need to do a whole regression project, or you will need to do, if you will be in the one version, especially probably you will need to have be prepared, to release those, to be in the test cycle to release all those updates correctly.
That's true. But if you ask about the security, this is a second tool we've got in pack. So you are able to move forward only with test automation, or decide to move with both of those, test automation and security. So if you're going to be interested, we can show you how they work both correlated.
Yeah. We have another question from Martin. Any tips for managing the end user during the UATs? Often these users are limited for time as they have their day job.
Exactly. Thank you, Martin. That's kind of
It's a common issue.
That's the common issue. So we have we can strip this down to a few elements. The one thing is that we have to perform UATs. So anyway, the business, they need to approve the shape of the functionality, and if you are implementing the system, the FAT phase is critical from the beginning, because more bugs you're going to move to UAT, less code you're going to move to UAT. The business will be more frustrated about that, and they will just focus on their job. They will not want to cooperate delivering new functionalities, because they will say, another bug on the UAT, I don't want to test that. I don't want to be those guinea pig which are testing the system. I want to see the real functionality. So more you test before UAT, and make sure that the business is just here for that smallest possible amount of time where they've got in our business job, in our business day. They are able to to approve the functionality, and then it can be moved. And by moving to the second stage, where we want to build from the UAT a test case, very often when we ask the business users, guys, we want to build test automation with you, so there will be no need for you to test. And the business user, they say, okay, I'm going to record for you the test case, but I have time. I don't know when I'm going to have time. And that's the limitation, that we have to use a specific tool which will allow us to gather knowledge from them in the way that it can be later on used for testing. That's why this was our major focus in Executive Automats, to build a software that can be leveraged by the business users. And we are inviting them to some so-called a process drop methodology. Process drop, saying that they can take any time of the day, any moment they are ready, in the evening, in the morning, when they have some time for us, they can just record that template of the process, not focusing too much on the data. They can use comment section, they can use status, they can use recorder to provide us that raw recording, which doesn't have that reusability perspective. But when they are ready, when they have dropped that process, which was recorded by them a second ago, they can change the status, and somebody from the QA can pick it up and enhance by test automation. So this can be quite beneficial to verify. See the follow-up question from Martin. We don't want to make it difficult for them. And exactly, as easy as possible. So you can perform. That's kind of an option to utilize Executive Automats for UATs. So invite business users through the recorder functionality of Executive Automats, and whenever they are verifying the function by performing the business process, they can record the business process. And the recording of the business process gives you a few things. You can see if, from the user experience perspective, the functionality was created in the right shape, with the best practices. So the business users went through the business process just as we wanted. or you will see that they are just loose, they are just lost in it, they are hectic, they don't know what to do, they are clicking around the system and they don't know how to perform that business process. So there is a significant place for you to perform that organic business process optimization by making some more understandable, more readable user interface. So
Yeah.
performing the this UAT phases and the verification of the business process through the recorder can be beneficial. If they're going to be very effective, you'll be benefiting from QA converting that to the test case. And yeah, and of course, after the UAT from the documentation. I hope, Martin, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here.
Thank you for those
Um,
questions. Very.
we
Yeah.
can have a separate session to discuss that. But I hope
Exactly.
this explained or gave you some ideas how to leverage the test automation and then the UAT.
You can also there will be a information about the links to the. I'll say it will be shared in the chat. The links to contact us directly to discuss that some topics further. Thanks, Martin. Again, so we have another question from Greg. Who should hold the responsibility for delivering the input for test scenarios? I'm about the
Possible
test, yeah, whatever the tester or solution architect or rather developer.
Sure. The responsibility should stay full on the business user. So we are the test cases, the delivery of the idea about the business process should come from the business users. So we have to understand what the business is doing, what is for them process, what they exactly perform in the system. So thanks to that, we have better sort of duty understanding. So if you're gonna think even more globally, if you're gonna make that duty distribution against your organization, you are able to pick that from totally different approach than normally. So we can think about salesperson, sales manager. We can ask them what processes they do. So we just outline one by one what they do in the system, and then one by one we ask them to record them. Of course, you can be very precise. You can ask them to outline these business processes with variations, with different customer groups for sales transaction or customer creation, with different type of the items or item as a service, and so on. So you have to be in communication with the business to help us, so to help the IT people understand what they are doing, what is their major or the general coverage, and then one by one we can record that. And this has to be kind of a knowledge transfer to the IT, because from the testing perspective or developer perspective, they don't know exactly the purpose out of
Yeah.
that. Documentation can be not super clear about what is the real goal after performing that business process, and the
What
business
need
will
to be
tell
a
you.
cool result? Yeah, this is the issue. Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
Bart.
The business can tell you that there is an invoice after that. There is a change of
Yeah,
the status. There is a debit and credit value. There is invent transaction. There are multiple other things which you can check, and of course they are part of the verification of the test case, the verification process of the test case. But always start small. Always start from small part of the automation. Always try to start with identifying just basic processes from the users. So this will give you a test case coverage, and you will know where I can go, how much test cases I can automate, how much test cases I can create, and how much
yeah.
I can document and make out of that some trainings.
It should be like one step, small one, no, not one step, small step. Sorry.
Exactly, agile.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
We
much,
have,
Greg, for a question.
yeah, thank you for that, but also for the answer. The last question I think which we are having: do you provide any solution for desktop apps automated testing?
So right now we are fully web-based application, which doesn't have access to the desktop application. I mean
Yeah.
applications overall, and this element will probably come in the future because we are investing a lot in executive automats, and in upcoming, maybe not this quarter or quarter following, this probably will be end of this year and the beginning of 2024.
Sure. Mhm.
Time flies. We'll be able to outreach to the desktop applications. We don't want to limit ourselves in the scope only on web-based applications. There are some new approaches that our R&D department is making, which is significant, and we want to make as much as possible a cross-platform testing. So this kind of approach is the one we are chasing and we want to deliver to you.
Yeah. So yeah, expect that in 2024.
Or sooner if we're going to have some
Or
major
sooner.
breakthrough.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Lucas, for that. Okay. Oh, there's another just appeared as a next question. Is there some end-to-end process that are merged between different users, like purchasing and mobile device WMS? What is the best way to automate UAT, cross-platform UAT testing?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, indeed, when you are doing you can definitely automate processes which are using the WMS, especially in Dynamics, the WHS execute or task validation app, which is embedded in the system. So there are some possibilities to make automation around the full cycle, where you do sales and then you picking license plates, making some send the package packing slips, and then you come back to the system to invoice the process and so on. So these elements are possible for testing to end-to-end cycles. If you think about business users where they need to do partial execution of specific process and the rest needs to be can be automated, the same thing happens. I mean, the definition so-called hybrid tests, we can say, which consists test automation and manual testing. For some elements we can make automation, so execute partial test case and then stop, and then the business user takes over the steering wheel and they go to the end of the transaction. So they can benefit from kind of a prepared transactions for them, so they can continue it. So if you are inviting business users for verifying the shape of the system, that they can approve that the functionality works, but in order to make them approve, they need to have prerequisite transactions. They need to have, let's say, 10 transactions which going to create the WMS actions, like picking something. So for that, you can use automation. You can record some test cases which will make those transactions, and then you invite for UAT those people which are using WMS, and they can go through WMS functionality, pick that, and then continue the transactions later on. So indeed, there is some automate. You can perform some automatic execution of prerequisite transactions for the UAT. And as a benefit, if you have those cross, we can say, cross competencies. There are different people from different departments. They have to merge into the end-to-end to make the final UAT. That will also simplify. And this actually refers back to the Martin Shinnery question: how to make sure that, because this makes it even more complicated. We want to verify if the system works well in the one place, but in order to do that, you have to actually have 2 or 3 business users, subject matter experts, which are available in very rare situations, and 3 of them, it is just winning a lottery. So if you're able to take those 3 and focus just on one, those 2 we're going to have simply we're going to mimic these users by test automation. The other one can perform the actions which are needed. I hope you've got the picture, but it is a significant time saving, especially that these business users, they're not having so much time, and
Yeah.
the 3 of them in the same moment is kind of a unique situation. So these are the benefits you can consider from using WMS in that example.
So thank you, Bart. Thank you, Zayed, for this question. Also, we have this is like, I think, last question, but it's also from Greg. How frequently should we conduct the UATs? Should be after each MSFT release according to the cadence, or only after releasing to the users new derivatives like futures, sorry.
Sure. So from what we see now, the most beneficial element is that you can actually perform the UATs whenever the user needs to sign off something. So simply saying, when you think about one version, the schedule gives you 3 updates in a year. So before every release, if you're going to make that, every release gives you kind of a limited number of changes into the system, and you can invite everybody to test. Or if you're going to make that sort of due diligence verification, you can verify which area exactly can have impact, and you can ask only those specific business users, subject matter experts, to verify their area. Do not ask everybody, because they're going to make a lot of frustration about the changes. The business user, if they're going to be asked for every one version for that significant number of system verification, it's kind of a overinvestment. At the end of the day, if you're going to have 100% of your test cases coverage created on, and we say definitely because this refers more to the after go live scenario. If we are having our regression pack, and each one version cycle comes up, and you're going to perform your full regression cycle, and there will be no process failing, this means that there are new functionalities, but they are not having an impact on the system stability. They are not having the impact on the shape of the business process. Our business processes, the regression tells us that we are able to perform on the update 55 and update new one which came, let's say update 56. So we can say then we are quite secure that even if you're gonna not ask the business users to verify on the UAT the shape of the system, we will be secure that moving this to the production, it will be still stable. This will have no impact on the system, and there will be bunch of new functionalities which Microsoft provided on the one version, which will be ready for usage by the users. But probably they're going to use them only if they're going to verify them on other phases. When you think about the question, also consists deliverables and features.
Yeah.
When we in our methodology, there is a kind of a idea how to build schedule, and you can think about the graph of 12 months, or I can say timeline of 12 months you have in the system, and you can build those forecasts where I would like to have my regression testing started. And we are trying to position the regression testing in the way it will work with the one version cycle and also our in-house development, to make sure that we are doing as less as possible those major testing, and perform each day or each week just smoke tests, which is the biggest possible ROI you can have, the biggest income from testing, or the biggest savings you can have from testing with that approach. So of course you could perform big regression and the UATs within each deliverables, within each delivery of every package that you are delivering to the UAT and then to the release environment. But this won't be cost effective, I would say. So it is better to align all of those within the one version pace, so 2 or 3 in a year, and merge them with your in-house development. I hope that answered your question quite a bit. If not, we can then follow up later on.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. I think we have like some version to the question of the Martin, but I will share that. We have found automating some tests, creating POs, can help, say, UATs users in AR that what many POs to invoice.
Exactly, and that's kind of a prerequisite transaction. So we create ourselves a lot of test transactions, so the other part of the business can benefit. So that's a perfect example.
They have like fundamentals to next steps, I would say, because it's quite good fundamentals to do perform all those other actions. Okay, guys, amazing. Thank you for the session. A lot of questions, a lot of good questions. All you guys, if you want to elaborate a bit more about those questions which were answered by Bart, feel free to book the call with us. The link to the, thank you, Greg, also. The link to that will be shared in a few moments in the chat section. So yeah, guys, amazing. Thank you. Or maybe I will, yeah. Oh, that will be much more visible. Oh my God, too much questions. Yeah. Now it's it. So yeah, feel free to reach us out if you will have any more questions. Thank you, Zayad. To reach us out, we'll be very happy to help. And again, thank you for joining us today. Have a lovely evening ahead. And cheers. Thank you, Bart, for the session. Bye. Oh, no, do we have like 2 more questions? Shall we answer to that, Bart? Oh, there's something. So, guys, we will respond to those questions in the follow-up. Just feel free to book the call with us. And yeah, cheers. Bye.